Hello everybody, it's Mike. Alright, so in this video I am going to push some buttons. I am doing it consciously. And I push buttons to show you your level of awareness about whatever it is you're working with, whether you're a codependent or whether you're a borderline. So before I go any further, I am not a counselor, I am not a licensed mental health professional of any kind, nor am I an expert in mental health. Please do not take anything I say as a substitute for actual therapy from a qualified mental health care professional. You are responsible for any actions you take from what I say. Having said that, here's my belief based on my observation. Borderlines, beware. Those people who want to be in a romantic relationship with you when you are not in therapy for your borderline personality disorder, those people are actively seeking to keep you sick. They are unconsciously trying to keep you sick. They are unconsciously abusing you. Now, we both know this is a dance. It goes both ways. So before anybody really starts jumping through the roof, borderlines are also responsible for the damage that they cause. And borderlines, if you want to be with an untreated codependent, which is anybody who wants to be with you when you're not treated, then you are also wanting to damage them and keep them sick. The both of you, the codependent and the borderline, at some point will share a deep, intense, overwhelming feeling of love and need for the other. So, before you get all upset with me saying, I don't hate my partner, I don't want anything wrong with them, there will be times when you both feel intense love and need for each other. But this is a dance of toxicity. Now, the borderline, you are not responsible for the circumstances that created your mental illness. You are responsible, however, unfortunately, for anything that happens as a result. Any of the damage that is caused, you are responsible for that. And this is the catch-22, because you can't, if you're in your borderline state of mind and you're regressed and you do not have tools that you've learned from therapy, then you will have no conscious defense against acting out destructively. The same is true for your seemingly put together codependent partner who has decided that they are going to save you. They are also completely out of control, and they have no mental defense against chasing after you and trying to save you, no matter how badly or horribly you push them away. Now, of course, some people do. Some people do choose to walk away. Some people do put down boundaries, which forces the untreated borderline to, push them away. And as we know, borderlines are very good at walking away all on their own. So the reason why I say this is because I'm really now, as I've said, I'm going to say it again. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. If I think that you are in denial, I'm going to tell you. If I think that you are being passive aggressive, I'm going to tell you. If I think that you aren't fully educated about what you're dealing with, I'm going to tell you. If you're straight out aggressive and destructive, I'm going to block you. As long as you don't go there, I will work with you. If you leave a comment on my channel, it's because, look, everybody sees it anyway. The whole world sees your channel. So me talking about it isn't going to change that. I am going to be more direct and aggressive and pointed with codependents than they're used to. Codependents, when they get into therapy, when they go to usually other 12-step groups, they're usually really used to being coddled. I came from a different 12-step group. Some of you might be able to figure out which one that is. We are ruthless with ourselves. In the anonymous group that I go to, If you start whining and complaining, they say, get the hell out of my face. I'm here to save my ass. If you're not serious, we don't want you here. Get out. Because that works with us. Now, I have found in my experience, my way of interacting and poking and prodding and helping people understand isn't always what most people want or are used to. Plenty of other places to go. You won't hurt my feelings. But what the codependents may not realize, and everybody else does, by the way, your borderline partner knows this about you and can talk about it for a long time. But what you may not understand is that you are full of rage. You are full of rage. You throw out guilt. You are full of self-righteous superiority. I'm not immune to any of this also. You are full of self-righteous superiority, and you are full of condescension. And you don't realize it because you are overwhelmed with your truth of feeling this overwhelming love and need to fix, heal your borderline partner. And you say, I'm just a giver. I just love too much. But what you don't understand is how amazingly, unbelievably, chronically selfish you are. How destructive and angry you are. How controlling you are. You're so controlling, you want to control how everybody feels and what they say. You are so controlling that how you look at things and the words that you choose to use are the only words, and you speak in absolutes. You don't talk about your feelings, you talk about absolutes and trying to get everybody to line up and do the right thing that you've decided is the right thing. And you're extremely abusive. You're full of unsolicited advice, and you have no problem telling people what's wrong with them and what they need to do to feel better, do right. And I'm going to again use a comment here to help me illustrate this. So, this was my one of my most recent videos. BPD devours your soul and creates a black hole where your identity should be. I think in that video, I'm not sure, but I think in that video, I made a lot of reference to borderline personality disorder being a mental illness. If not in that, then in the other videos. And I hammer that point away. I do that for one reason. It's so that the codependents can realize that the very thing that they think they are trying to accomplish is the very thing that pushes the borderline into the depth of their mental illness. When they lose their ability to control their reactions and their perceptions of you. And when you realize that they can't love you the way you want them to, that they can't make connections with you the way you want them to, and in fact your attempts to do so is what makes them split on you. When you realize that what you want from them you will never get as long as they are untreated, then you'll stop harming yourself. But codependents, if they're deep in their disease, their illness, their craziness, whatever word you want to use, their lack of power, when they're regressed, they don't want to hear that. Codependents want desperately, you have to understand this. Borderlines, you need to understand this. Codependents desperately need to believe that you're not broken. Because if you're broken, that means they're broken. They don't know that, but that's what's going on underneath their conscious awareness. So they will defend violently against anybody who wants to say that you have a mental illness. Because if you don't have a mental illness, that means that one day they can get you to love them the way they want you to love them. They say they love you unconditionally, but they don't. Unconditionally means however you respond is okay with me. Conditionally says, I'm going to give this to you and you have to give this back to me. And they are doing this. They are giving you all this unconditional love. They are pouring all of this help into you. They're, whatever it is that they're doing, they're forgiving you, putting up with this, putting up with that, allowing you to pull them in so that they open up with their feelings. And then, you know, after, I'm talking to the borderlines now, after you flip on them and reject them, they get to come back. They are coming from such a place of self-righteousness when they forgive you, because they think that they're more powerful than you. They think they're superhuman. Because somebody who's not codependent goes, wow, that, when you split on them, they go, wow, that hurt really badly. I didn't deserve that. It's very obvious I can't trust this person to react the way, you know, I expect them to. And they go, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's actually a sign of unconditional love. But when the codependent says, after you get smacked in the face a bunch of times, and, you know, 5, 6, 7 times, they stand up and they say, I can take it. I'm not done. I'm going to love you until you love me back. I won't go. I refuse to leave. It's because they can't. They're addicted. They can't go. They're addicted to the abuse. They want you to abuse them. Why do they want you to abuse them? They want you to abuse them so that they won't have to look at the same black hole that's inside of them that you have inside of you. Which is, they didn't respond to this, you know, maybe the conditions were different. Same kind of thing: neglect, abuse, shame, double messages, alcoholism, drug addiction. Perhaps they even had a borderline mother. And they have chosen you as the person to help distract them from the horrific pain inside of them. And the way that they stay distracted is by loving you even when you tell them. And I know, because my borderline looked me in the face and said, I don't know if you should be with me. I don't know that I can control myself. I might change on you. Borderlines, have you said that to your codependent? They still come back, don't they? No, that's okay. We'll get through this together. It's because they are in denial of the fact that you have a mental illness. Now I'll get to the comment to show you what I mean. So in that video where I must have said most likely that borderline personality disorder is a mental illness and that codependents need to realize that if they want to heal, otherwise you will stay in a delusion and the toxicity and the destruction could destroy you. So this person says, BPD is not a mental illness, it's a trauma response. Nothing else. Didn't respond to any of the other, you know, of the other things that were in that video. Only responded to my word, phrase, mental illness. I'm sure if I talked to this person that you would say that a trauma response means that in that moment they're not responding the way an undamaged normal person would be, right? This person wants to bring you to the trauma, wants to keep you in the trauma so that they can justify your response. Why do they do that? Because they see themselves in you, borderlines. She says, BPD is not a mental illness, it's a trauma response. Now, my thought about that is, who am I dealing with? This could be a borderline who doesn't like the label of mental illness, and so they're saying it's a trauma response. Or it is a codependent who doesn't want to admit that the person that they're with is mentally ill and incapable while they're in their untreated state to love them back the way that they want. So I respond and I say, why do you need to make that distinction? Are you a BPD? And then I say, regardless whether you call it a trauma response, which I totally agree with, in parentheses, or if you call it a mental illness, it does not change the fact that the borderline's response to people is very often not in alignment with people's actual behavior and intentions, which is another way of saying that's what we would call a mental illness. That's my definition anyway. Somebody who's mentally ill is at some point in their interaction, they are not seeing reality as it objectively is. And what the borderline does is they see somebody who's not a threat as somebody who is actually, who's trying to love them. They see that person as somebody who's actually trying to destroy them. That shows a break with reality. That would go under the heading of mental illness. It's important that the borderline understand that also, because then the borderline will seek help. If the codependent realizes that about the person they're with, they'll give up trying to love them and then go find out why the hell they were chasing after somebody who is incapable of loving them. That's why that word, that phrase mental illness is important. I don't care what I don't have a judgment on it. The borderline is not responsible for the circumstances that created the mental illness. They are responsible for their behaviors after they become an adult. The codependent is not responsible for whatever caused them to become a codependent, but they are responsible for their behavior and their actions once they become an adult. That's not me, that's the way the world works. As my teacher said, the world is not interested in excuses, only results, which means you can justify it all you want. You can say, codependent, that it's not an illness, it's a trauma response. I'm here to protect them. You can say that all you want. It won't change the fact that life will respond to them the same way, whether or not they are mentally ill or whether they're not. That's why it's important for everybody who has whatever dysfunction they have to go, wow, I've got a dysfunction here. The world is not gonna tolerate me being like this for very long. And so you own your own truth, which is your own narcissistic reality, and you realize it may not be objective truth. That is why it's important to use the word mental illness. I'm not stuck on that word. I don't like the word crazy or insane. I use the word broken sometimes because that implies that the actual thing that breaks them, the person is not responsible for that. But I don't care what word you use. They're at a disadvantage, and it's in everybody's best interest for the borderline to realize that. And it's in everybody's best interest for the codependent to realize that. Listen, codependents, if you didn't dance with them, whether they're borderline, alcoholic, drug addict, whatever it is, if you don't dance with them and you don't take up the slack for them, they will be more motivated to get help more quickly. When you justify their behavior as this person thinks they're doing, this person thinks they're protecting the borderlines. But what this person is really doing is they are coming after me because I am showing them they don't have the power they think they have. Anyway, let me get back to it. Person says, BPD is not a mental illness, it's a trauma response. My response, why do you need to make that distinction? Are you BPD? Regardless of whether you call it a trauma response, which I totally agree with, or a mental illness, it does not change the fact that the borderline's response to people is very often not in alignment with people's actual behavior and intentions. So, instead of finding ways to defend borderline personality disorder, we are looking for ways to heal. Even if it is a trauma response, it is extremely destructive to others. Thanks for asking. To which this person responds. And now we find out what they're really about. And now I know this person is a codependent, which means they are full of vindictive rage. Codependents, if you're with a borderline and you're chasing after somebody who doesn't love you, you are full of vindictive rage. And it's horrible if you're not aware of that. I'll share a story before I'm done with this, which helps me to realize that I was actually, even though I was in my codependence, what helped brought about the end of my relationship was actually me coming from a very healthy place, which I will share with in a second. Okay, then, so I say, so the response to my question, which is, why are you making that distinction? Are you BPD? This person says, I need to make that distinction because you need to be accurate in your statements. So I am making them. They need to make that distinction because I need to be accurate in their statements. Your word is important and should be true, honest, valid. So what this person has already said is that I am forcing them to correct me on the phrase mental illness when applied to borderline personality disorder. And that according to them, they're not saying they prefer a different, they're saying I'm just inaccurate. I need to be accurate in my statements. Your word is important and should be true, honest, valid. So according to this person, my word is not true, I'm not being honest, and they're not valid. All three. So I'm being judged as inaccurate, deceitful, and invalid. I don't even know what that means. What does validity have to do with it? Valid, valid is something else. So not only is it not true and it's not honest, it has no value. Do you hear the shame in that? This is called unconscious projection. Words are important. And then they finally get to it. And no, I'm not BPD. And then right back into the attacks. I am holding you to your word, and I feel accuracy is just important. What word is it that she's holding me to? Did I say, tell me where I said, I'm never going to use the word mental, what word are you talking about? So, there's just so much judgment in there that I am somehow not following through with my own integrity because you don't like what I'm saying? So manipulative, so full of shame. I swear to God, the more that I'm doing this, I am seeing far more consciousness from the borderlines who are responding on this channel than from the codependents. A lot of the codependents don't know any better. They just know what they know. And they're coming here and they're honestly trying to figure it out. They're wrapped up in the delusion that they think they can save their partner, and they're trying to grasp that, and so they're struggling with what I'm saying. I'm totally okay with that. This person talks like an expert because this person is speaking 100% from the truth. Not saying in my experience or in my belief, but just laying out these blanket truth statements and judging me in the process. All right, let me just read the whole thing because because I can hear, this is the thing, I'm really good at this. Maybe it's a pain in the ass thing. God help anybody who gets in a relationship with me. But I can hear in every one of your statements, I can hear all the unconscious reality underneath. All right, so let me read the whole thing. So again, my question is, why do you need to make that distinction? Are you BPD? I need to make that distinction because you need to be accurate in your statements. Your word is important and should be true, honest, valid. Words are important. No, I'm not BPD. I am holding you to your word, and I feel accuracy is just important. The phrase mental illness gets thrown around a lot, and a personality disorder is not a mental illness. I feel the distinction is important. You're trying too hard to read into what people say instead of just getting what they have to say. For example, asking me if I'm a borderline. Well, the reason why I'm asking if you're a borderline is because you're not revealing anything about yourself. All you do is you drop in this passive-aggressive correction. BPD is not a mental illness, it's a trauma response. All you did was find one phrase. You didn't talk about anything else in that 20-minute video. So I don't know. It's helpful to know. I asked you an honest question, and according to you, I'm trying too hard to read into things because I ask you one question? This channel is devoted to borderline personality disorder and the codependents who recover from that. So there's only two people who are going to come onto this channel. It's either going to be borderlines or people who've been in relationships with borderlines. For me to understand why you're saying that, I'm asking you who you are. What is wrong that you can't come on and share yourself? Again, codependents are so fucking secretive and so defensive. All I did was ask one question, and I'm asking too much for you to tell me why. Are you borderline or are you not? Yeah, the phrase mental illness gets thrown around a lot. So now this person again is acting like she's going to talk for all of the mental health professionals in existence and say the word mental illness is thrown around. I'm absolutely certain this person is not in the mental health field, because the word mental illness is not an attack any more than physical illness or physical disability. That's just a fact. And I am not judging anybody when I say that they have a mental illness. In fact, I am saying, wow, my apologies for not seeing you for who you were. Now, if I were to interact with a borderline, I would have a completely different take on it, because I would know that there's a spot there that they have a challenge with. And if I choose to be in a relationship with somebody who has that challenge, then I'm going to have to choose to deal with the fallout from that. All right, I'm getting off track here. The phrase mental illness gets thrown around by people in the mental health field. So you want to get upset about the word mental illness applied to borderline personality disorder, please go and talk to the entire psychiatric community. Go talk to psychologists and psychiatrists and all those who have defined it. That's why I use the word. I use the word mental illness because when I was doing my research, what I saw was mental health experts who have the ability to help borderlines recover say that borderline personality disorder was a mental illness. And that helped me to recover, because it helped me stop feeling like it was my responsibility to fix them. It helped me to realize that I was not powerful enough. Unlike you, I'm betting, who believes that you are powerful enough to help them. You haven't told me. I asked you two questions. I said, are you a borderline? And then I said, are you a partner to a borderline, which interestingly enough, you did not respond to. So this reminds me of another statement, which I can't find now. It might still be on there, but I think the person took it off before, lucky for them, before I got a chance to point it out. And this person got very upset with me over something, a face that I made when I said the word codependent. And they started to, they threw out again this very quip, passive-aggressive, snarky little like this. Borderline personality disorder is not a mental illness. It's a trauma response. Which is, by the way, those two words are not mutually exclusive. It can be a mental illness that displays itself as a trauma response. It is a trauma response that is so intense that it is in fact a mental illness. It's not one or the other. But I get it. You don't want to victimize the borderline, so you call it a trauma response. You want to focus on their trauma. You want to focus on them being a victim, which means that they can't help, that they don't have a mental illness, that somebody has hurt them. And so because you're a codependent, trauma, you go racing towards the trauma with, the white cross on your shirt and your stethoscope, and you're going to fix them. Because it's trauma, it's pain, and you're going to heal the pain. And you don't care if you get your hand bitten off. You're here to help them. The helpless. Here's the thing, borderlines, I give you the credit to help yourselves. I know that just like with the codependent, that when you are regressed, that you're not operating from an understanding of true reality. So in those moments, you might not be able to help what you say or do. But when it comes to having the ability to make the choice to get better or to stay in your illness, you have that choice. I give you that power. And the only way that you will take that power is if I get the fuck out of the way and let you decide for yourself if you want to get sick or not. If you want to get better or not, Freudian slip. Same with the alcoholic and the drug addict. There's somebody else on here who left a comment. I won't I won't say her name because she's been very cooperative, but I think she's needs some education when it comes to helping alcoholics. This person took an alcoholic in off the street, and this now, according to what I wrote, this alcoholic is now in and out. And I made the suggestion to let him go. If you really want to help him, don't do anything for him. To which she said, he's gone. And I said, that's not true. You just said you let him in and out, and you're letting him keep his stuff there, which means that once things go sour with whoever he's using now, he's going to come back to you and you're going to let him in. If you know anything about alcoholism, the kindest thing you can do for a practicing alcoholic is let them wake up in their own filth in the street with no money and no support. Because they are perfectly capable. They're extremely resourceful, and they can find their way to the homeless shelter, to the Salvation Army, to wherever it is. And they'll stay there as long as they need to until somebody there starts telling them they need to get sober and get a job, in which case they'll be back on the street knocking on your door. And you're helping them drink themselves to death because you think you're helping them. The same is true with borderline personality disorder. The kindest thing you can do for an untreated borderline is to get the hell out of the relationship, to tell them, I love you, this relationship is toxic to me. If you want me in your life, you need to go see a therapist qualified to help you with borderline personality disorder. Call me in 1 year's time. I will meet you in your therapist's office and we can talk about whether or not we want to go forward. That is the kindest thing you can do. And 1 year is, it's going to take them a lot more than 1 year to be able to have a relationship anyway. But that might actually get them to go do something if they don't have anybody, to depend on, to take, to take up the slack for them. This person is saying, I'm going to take up the slack because it's a trauma response. It's not a mental illness. They're in pain. I'm a healer. And what you don't realize, codependent, is that you are so full of self-righteousness, you are so full of the delusion of power and superiority, that to say that to a borderline, denying the fact that they actually do have a mental illness which needs to be addressed, the fact that you are taking that away from them and imposing yourself as this know-it-all, and if you are in a relationship with them saying, I'm going to help you, I'm going to take care of you, that you are condescending to them. You are saying to them, you won't make it without me. I'm the only one. And that's why you're so angry at me, because I am actually saying, without realizing it, that by getting out, leaving the borderline on their own and not having any contact with them, I am saying to them, you are capable of getting help if you choose to. If you don't choose to, I'm not going to be a part of this. I am giving them the credit. I am making them an equal when I do that. You aren't. The other person I was talking about left a comment, got really upset with me, said, I advocate for those who can't. And this person was talking about borderlines, saying that borderlines can't advocate for themselves. They can't do anything for themselves. So I'm going to do it for them. My super cape with the white cross and my stethoscope. I'm going to rush in there and fly in and fix all the boo-boos, when in reality, on an unconscious level, you are furious at them for not loving you the way you want, and you're going to keep them sick. Let me share an experience I had. When I was, how old was I, 28? And I had a theater company in Hollywood. I used to be an actor, and I was running a theater company. I was teaching classes. I was acting in plays, and I was working 2 jobs, and I was auditioning for television and movies and blah, 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 blah. And because the only thing I was doing was drinking coffee and Hanson's soda, and I was full of rage because I was trying so hard to prove to the world that I was somebody, because I was going to be a big-time movie actor. And I was so full of rage and resentment over things not going my way, combined with my diet and my lifestyle, I got a kidney stone. Now, the pain was so bad, I would pass out. Like I would literally writhe on the floor in pain, and then I would pass out from the pain. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was the queen of codependence. And instead of rushing me to the emergency room, because I was incapable, I was passing out from the pain and I was incapable of driving or doing anything, she kept me in the bedroom all night and fell asleep. And then at one point, you know, the kidney stone stopped moving. It was like the size of a basketball. And so there was, I woke up and I realized that I was in, you know, a space between, you know, the pain was going to come again. There was going to be another, you know, bout of pain, and that I was probably going to pass out. And she's lying there, and I said, we need to go to the hospital now. I'm in serious trouble. We need to go to the hospital. Went to the hospital, the emergency room, blah, blah, blah. The doctor said, it's a good thing you came in when you did. If you had stayed in any longer, you could have, you know, you could have poisoned yourself. And I went back to her and I said, do you realize how, you know, she's driving me home from the hospital after it all. And I said, do you realize that I almost died because you didn't take me to the hospital? And she got all upset. Don't you think I know that? But the thing was, is that she didn't take me to the hospital. You know why? Because she was such a codependent, I couldn't go anywhere. So she had me. I couldn't get up and leave. So she slept next to me all night because I couldn't go anywhere because I was passed out from the pain. This is what we're talking about. Codependents want to keep hostages. They're not there just to heal you. I'm not saying that they don't have an honest desire for you to get well. Don't get me wrong. This person, I have no doubt, is a hostage taker. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I only know based on, you know, the anger that she has towards me because I want to tell you the truth. You have a mental illness. It prevents you from having a real relationship. It's causing you and everybody else a lot of pain. Go get some help so that you can have love, first and foremost, sanity and happiness for yourself. And second, you can have love when you're ready for it and you won't harm other people. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm treating you like an equal. I know that you have the choice to take care of yourself. Unlike this individual who won't allow you to even have the reality of the fact that you have a mental illness. I say it all the time. Being a codependent to a borderline is like expecting a one-legged person to run a marathon. They can't do it. It's not their fault. It's not a judgment. But to sit there and expect them to run a marathon when they think they can run a marathon and they want to run a marathon and they keep tripping and falling on their face because they can only hop around, and they end up taking it out on you because you're there right next to them telling, go ahead, you can do it. You're not listening to them when they say, I can't. I'm broken. Borderlines are so full of rage, so vindictive, so controlling, so full of themselves, so condescending. They don't see that. And again, it takes one to know one, as you can tell. So I end up saying to her, Karen, a lot of anger, judgment, and aggression there directed at me. As I said, I completely agree with you that BPD is a trauma response. And the phrase mental illness, when applied to BPD, is not just thrown around, nor am I doing so. That is a phrase used by mental health professionals, and it is not a condemnation on those legitimately suffering from borderline personality disorder. If you take the time to watch more of my vids and put the effort into reading the comments left by recovering people with borderline personality disorder on this channel, you will see that I'm here to help everyone. So I'm holding you to your word, whatever the hell that means, and asking you to drop the self-righteousness. Perhaps get yourself to a CODA meeting or maybe a therapist who deals with codependence. People with borderline personality disorder don't need you to defend them. If you want to stop dealing in absolutes and share your experiences and feelings without the judgment, you are welcome. If you insist on being a judgmental, self-righteous, untreated codependent, I will block you from commenting. Have a beautiful day. But I think what's important there in that last part is what codependents don't do when they're in their rageful, self-righteous delusion of power and superiority, they don't ever talk from their feelings. They point out what's wrong with you. Like in this case, she could only find one thing was wrong, which was I used the wrong phrase. Which had, you know, how much did that have to do with the whole video? Almost nothing. And this person did not answer my second question, which is, you know, are you a BPD or are you in a relationship with a BPD? Because if this person, I bet, is in a relationship with a borderline, because if they say they're in a relationship, they know probably my response is going to be, you have to get out. You're not helping them. The kindest thing you can do for them is to get the hell out and suggest that they get therapy for their very real mental illness. You say you love them, that's the kindest thing to do. Get the hell out of the way. Let them get better. If they don't want to get better, that's their choice. They have the right to do that. It's not your job to demand to fix their trauma. This trauma response. Okay, that's it. I think I beat that horse to death. Again, you come on here and you know, because this is a, look, why do I get like this? I feel very strongly about this. I feel very strongly about people I feel very strongly about codependents who need to see the truth so that they can heal, so that they can go and find out why they chose to get involved with somebody that was incapable of loving them and was so toxic and abusive. They did that for a reason. There's something they need to look at in themselves. This isn't about the borderline. The borderline is not the one that caused the codependence. You know, codependents want to claim that they're the victim of this and victim of that, and you don't understand. Nope, you chose to be there. That's important. I feel strongly about that because when you can realize that, you can get better. I feel strongly for the borderline as well. I seriously, if I could, let me get my little assistant out here. If I could go back and stop that little girl from crying and go back in time and fix whatever the hell happened that broke her, not that this little girl's a borderline, I don't wish that on her. She's probably a 30-year-old adult right now running a corporation. If I could go back and fix, you know, my ex, I would. I can't. It doesn't mean I don't care. And you know, I thought about what can we do? How can we bring awareness to this situation? How can we prevent this from happening in the future? It is so horrible to know that, you know, my ex, there's nothing I can do to heal her. Nothing. The damage was so severe that there's nothing I can do. The best I can do is if she decides to get help and I were her friend, I could be her friend while she healed herself. It's the best I could do. But man, if there was something I could do, I would. And maybe, I don't know, maybe, you know, I'm looking back on why it all happened and the karma of it all, and maybe there's something I can do to help. I am absolutely, totally surprised and pleasantly thrilled to see that borderlines are telling me that I am helping them. I'm not trying to do that. It's not my business. I mean, in the beginning of this video, I was saying, borderlines, watch out. I'm really talking to the codependents. I'm not talking to the borderlines. They already know this. They already know what pains in the ass the codependents are. All right, so that's it for me. By the way, the little baby borderline, she's crying because you haven't subscribed to the channel. So lightly mouse over her cute little crying face. And if you subscribe, she will magically be instantly healed, and she will then go on to live a happy life. All right, that's it. Talk to you guys later.